You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is December 10th, 2024 meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Michigan City Board of Zoning and Appeals. It is December 10th, 2024. It is 6:15. I apologize for the late start, but we are going to call the meeting to order. And if you would start out with roll call, please.
Mr. Jackson,
Here.
Mr. Klinder, Ms. Stransky, Ms. Van,
Here.
and Mr. Gross,
Here.
Attorney Steve Hill.
Present.
You have quorum.
Okay. So at this point, we're going to start something just a little bit different. I wish you all would stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes, ma'am.
may I make a recommendation?
Yes, please.
I would like to recommend that we amend the agenda to add a few items that were left off from old business.
Okay. Do you have a list of them, or are we just gonna, when we get
Listen,
to old business, we can, are they petition numbers?
yes, but you'll have to call a vote to amend them. But I'll read what I'm requesting the amendment to be, and then you guys can make the determination whether you would allow that to take place.
Okay.
I would like to amend the agenda to add BZA rules and procedures and approved meeting minutes, the approved meeting minutes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay. Board members, is there a motion to approve the,
Motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
I have a motion by Ms. Vance,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Gross.
I'll call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Van,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, before we move on, into any of the petitions tonight, we want to make sure that all the petitioners are aware there is only 3 board members here. Usually there is 5. So if you do not want your petition to be heard, because at this point, all 3 board members will have to agree to the petition in order to pass it. Is that correct, Mr. Hale?
That is correct.
So if you do not want your petition to be heard tonight, we can reschedule it. Otherwise, it'll be heard just like usual, but it will take all 3 of us to give a positive on it. If there's anybody who would like their petition to be pushed back to our next meeting, so you don't have to wait, you're more than welcome to step forward now. Okay, we'll continue on with the meeting. Do we have minutes for the approval of last minutes?
I would like to recommend that we table the 11/12/2024 minutes as we're looking for a transcriber.
Okay,
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Gross,
I second it.
seconded by Ms. Vance. Roll.
I call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Van,
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Aye.
Minutes table. Thank you.
Then we can move into our first petition, if you would, please.
I would like to call B-103-24 Mark Marchitz. I just can never say it. He is online and he is requesting a variance to add a third residential unit to his structure.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello,
Can
everybody.
you tell us about your petition, please?
It's Mark Marshitz here. Yes, we are trying to renovate. There was a vacant house on 8th Street and Cedar is the cross street. We are basically want to gut it out and rebuild it, keeping with the historic facade, and we've been approved from the historic the historic board has approved our changes. We've done multiple different projects in the downtown area, a few. We'd like to do more. It's a very difficult task because it's very expensive to do what we're doing. The cost of the materials and the whole thing, and where the real estate market is, it's very difficult to put the money into them. If we were to put the money into them and try to sell them, we couldn't get the money back out because it's just the property values they just haven't come up. But what we're trying to do, our company's motto is make the world a better place, one house at a time. So we're trying to revitalize areas and build stuff where it needs to be built, not necessarily just go into the shiniest neighborhoods if possible. But anyways, financially, to make it work, the only way that I've been able to figure it out is through what's called a DSCR loan, which is a debt service coverage ratio loan. And the properties have to generate X amount of rent in order for us to get a loan, to fund the project. And to get they look at the rent numbers. It's very important to the project. And if we add the third unit, it definitely helps us in covering the costs. So it's a way that we can help revitalize the downtown and do something good, make the world a better place. So that's what we're trying to do. In order to do these projects, we need the banks on board. This is how to get the banks on board with the higher rent. So that's why we're doing it the way we're doing it. Anyways, in a nutshell, that's what we're doing. We need the third unit in order to make it line up.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
We'll move into the planning department's report, please.
This is the planning department's report on the petition for B-103-24407 East 8th Street. There was no remonstration from the water department, nor sanitary, nor fire. The planning department like to inform the public that the petitioner is requesting a variance to add an additional unit on the basement of the 407 East 8th Street. The zoning ordinance requirements states that the property is zoned as R2B, single family residential. The required Section 05-02, the use of the multifamily dwelling is not permitted in the district. 2 family units are allowed, but more than 2 units are not. Any use not listed in the table are also prohibited. Requested. The petitioner is requesting a use variance. The petitioner proposed to enhance the existing house by adding an additional unit to the basement, which will elevate the property to a total of 3 residential units. This improvement will not only increase the housing availability, but also contribute positively to the neighborhood. Planning Department's comments. The petitioner is seeking a use variance to expand the existing housing by adding an additional rental unit to its lower level. The request is aimed to create a multi-family dwelling defined as residence where 3 or more families live independently, each preparing their own meals. By allowing this variance, the petitioner would be in compliance with regulations which provide much-needed housing options. The proposal ensures that the number of families will not exceed the available dwelling units, thereby maintaining a balanced and harmonious community. This definition includes 3-family housing, 4-family housing, and apartment buildings, all of which contributes to diverse housing and solution, which is needed in Michigan City. Proposed findings. The standards for a variance have been set out below in italics. 2.28.118 with the department's proposed reasoning for its findings. Number 1, the approval will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. The planning department believes that the proposed use of this structure will comply with all applicable requirements for the transition to its new purpose. Allowing this change will not negatively affect the property's value or the surrounding community. The petitioner intends to convert the lower level of the housing from a basement into a rental unit. This modification is expected to provide more affordable housing in the area, thereby positively impacting the community's overall welfare. Additionally, the proposed use will align with existing and permitted uses in the surrounding neighborhoods. Number 2, the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantial adverse manner. The proposed use aligns with existing uses within the surrounding area and will not negatively impact the value or use of the neighborhood's property. The petitioner plans to enhance the overall appearance of the structure by remodeling both the exterior and interior of the house to meet residential regulations. The proposed design will incorporate essential features, including egress-sized windows in each room to ensure compliance with safety regulations. Additionally, the petitioner intends to widen the current single-lane driveway into a 2-lane driveway to accommodate the new unit. Overall, this proposed use has the potential to enhance the property value within the community. Number 3, the need for the variance does arise from some condition particular to the property's involvement. The lower level of the house is currently being used as the basement. However, it is not zoned for multifamily use, which would permit more than 2 units. To comply with the ordinance, the petitioner is seeking a use variance that would allow the basement area of the property to be utilized as a residential unit. This change is necessary to enable the petitioner to continue to provide housing for the community. Number 4, the strict application of the term of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. The petitioner structure was initially built as a residential building. However, the petitioner requests to convert the basement into a 2-part apartment unit. According to the strict application of the zoning ordinance, the petitioner is restricted from developing the proposed additional unit, as the property is only zoned for a single-family unit. This limitation affects the potential for improving both the property and the community, as well as reducing the availability of affordable housing. Number 5, the Approval does not interfere substantially with the comprehensive land development plan. Considering the property's location and the neighborhood zoning classification and use, the approval of this use will align with the comprehensive land development plan and the recommended use for this area. The planning department recommends approval of the variance docket B-101-24 subjected to the following conditions. The petitioner shall only be allowed to convert the lower level basement into a third unit for rental purposes. The petitioner shall convert the single lane driveway into a 2-lane driveway and shall follow all standards set out in section 18.02 of our zoning ordinance. So ends your report.
Thank you. Mr. Hale?
Yes, sir. I have a report for petition B-103-24. The petitioner applicant is Mark Marsheets. The property owner is Forest Avenue Properties LLC, DBA MCM Homes LLC. The request is for a use variance for the property at 407 East 8th Street, Michigan City, Indiana. The petitioner, as Ms. Martin indicated to you in her report, is asking for a use variance so that he would be allowed to add a third residential unit to the property, which is not allowed in the R2B zoning district that this property is residing in. To consider that, this body is to follow and make findings regarding the standards that are set out in section 28.11 subsection A of our zoning ordinance. Those are the precise, exact standards that were read to you in the planning department report. And you have those in front of you. So I would remind you that you may, under section 2805B of the zoning ordinance, grant the request as requested, partially grant the request or grant it with limitations, or grant the request but subject to certain conditions as enumerated in the motion. That is, they have to be put in the motion. And I would just note, Ms. Martin has included 2 conditions in her recommendation. Or you could deny the request, or you could table the request until a future meeting. Next, I would note that the petitioner has submitted appropriate notice documentation. I've had an opportunity to review that. I find that our notice requirements are in order and that you may consider this matter this evening. And finally, I would just note that as usual, I've included in my report a list of the materials submitted by the petitioner, including rather extensively comments and documents relating to the exact project. I would just add to that, however, the notice documentation that the petitioner has also submitted as being part of the record. And with that, that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Board members, is there any questions or comments?
I have several questions for you. Some are basic. I'm not familiar with the basements in that part of the city. Are the basements dry there? I know you've done extensive work at it.
The soil is sand. We've put in drain tiles around the entire basement with a new sump pit and a new ejector pit. So the answer is yes, they are dry. But if the water tables do rise, I have taken precaution to make sure that the apartment stays secured and dry.
Okay. Also, a lot of the basements, older houses like that, the ceilings were less than 7 feet. When you redid the foundation walls, was the ceiling made at least 7 feet?
Yes. We dug down.
Okay, and you're also in a historic district, and you mentioned the petition you want to change the front of the building. Have you already received permission from the historic district for the work you've been doing?
Yes, we've been working with Deb Parcells and the Historic District to make sure that everything is exactly how, it should be, and we're trying to keep the historic flair of the neighborhood. We're gonna be trying to save the original siding if we can. We're gonna be putting in the crown moldings and things on the soffits and fascia that were, commonplace in that period. The front porch is being, there was a later addition to the front porch that was put on, not back, not its original front porch. There was a cinder block front porch exchanged somewhere. It's hard to say exactly when it was done, but it was maybe in the 60s, 50s, somewhere in there. But we're going to be replacing it back to the, period front porch to match, what was the original porch. And we've worked closely with Deb Parcells with making sure that all of it is going to keep the historic alive, keeping it intact so that it meets. But, obviously the stuff on the inside is going to be all brought to today's codes. And unfortunately, we are taking the original bricks on the foundation, but the foundation itself was, it's 100+ years old, so it was not safe to keep, the way that it was. So we had to reconstruct it, but we're going to be using the exact same original bricks, and we're building a facade around so that the original bricks will still show. From the outside, it's going to look just like the 1889, bricks. Those are all going back up. But behind them, there's going to be, modern cinder block that's filled with concrete that's, a solid waterproof foundation. With modern egress windows, making it safe for people to escape if needed. Sorry, go. That's my answer, I guess.
Okay, now the basement you want to convert this to a 3-unit. I assume one unit will be the main floor, one unit will be the upstairs, and one unit will be the basement. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I noticed that you have a large excavation in front near the sidewalk for the basement steps. Do you have any, I don't see on the drawing, any plans to protect pedestrians or anybody from accidentally falling down those steps? Do you have any plans for a fence or a barrier wall to prevent accidents there from the general public?
There is a railing that goes around the well that will be, above grade and to code, 36 inches or higher. So that they can't just fall in. They would have to go down the steps. There's a like a knee wall that goes around the whole thing.
Will you also have a gate there at the front of the steps? That's fairly common when you have basement steps toward the main roadway or sidewalk.
We did not prepare for a gate in front of it. There was there's a brick as you're walking down them, the sidewalk will come up to the house, and then the stairs will be there, and you'll be able to walk down the stairs. There will be handrails. And as you're, facing the house to the left, there will be a wall. Like I said, a knee wall that protrudes up so that nobody can just fall in the stairs. I believe it's 9 steps. Is it 9? I can't remember the number of steps, but I think it is 9 steps going down. But no knee walls in front of it. We don't have a fence in front of it. I'm not sure that's a code to put a fence in front of it, but I don't think it is. Anyways, so the answer is no.
Okay. Another question. How much of the basement area is below grade and how much is above? It looks like you've only got about 2 feet of it above grade. Is that true?
Okay, it's a interesting answer for that. On the driveway side, here, let me get my drawing.
Is it more or less than half the height of the basement above grade? I guess that would be the question.
I would say it's less. I would say, and I don't have access to my drawing at this second, but I'm going to say roughly 3 feet above grade, of which on the driveway side, it's going to stay the 3 feet. On the living side, we are adding a larger egress window that spans so that it will let more light in. And there's windows, as shown on the plan, there's like 5 windows on that would be the east side of the house. That the windows are, above ground halfway, but also below ground, like, an egress. So it has a well of sorts going down, but it lets the light in, which makes it, light and airy inside.
Yeah, my reason for that question is the code defines a basement as an area below ground, but with at least half the area from the ceiling down above grade. And it defines a cellar as an area below grade without at least half the height above grade. And it says you cannot build habitable space in a cellar space. Okay, so that's my concern there. I don't know if you need a variance for that, because that's not in zoning, that's actually in building code.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
at this point in time, if you want to put that in your recommendation, that it meets all the building standards, then that would be up to the building inspector's office to handle that.
Okay.
So that would be, yeah. Do you have anything else?
I'm good.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Nope.
Okay. We're ready for public comment? Okay, we're gonna move into public comment. Is there public comment on this petition? Public comment. I'm gonna ask you to make the comment to this petition, about this petition, and keep it to 2 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Janet Toira Smith. I live at 408 East 8th Street, directly across from this petition. I do not know the petition number to give you. You'll just have to use what you have there. I do know Mike. I've watched him build several other buildings and redo them in the historic area. This is Elston Grove, by the way. This is where it's at. And he's done an excellent job. My only concern on this building is the fact that there will be more vehicles parking on 8th Street, and that concerns me greatly. Have you addressed the fact that we have a pretty busy street there? It's hard to get in and out a lot of times. We have a stop sign on the corner that the people continue to refuse to obey. And so they don't stop, they go right through at a pretty good speed. And this house is only one house away from the corner, so it's pretty serious. If we're going to have 6 cars, and I would imagine with 3 units, each unit usually has about 2 cars, there'd have to be a placement for those cars to go. And I don't know if a double driveway, I don't know if the back of the lot is even open to an alleyway. I'm not sure about that. So the going in and out of a driveway, even if it's a double driveway, it's difficult unless you have another access somewhere. So I'm curious about that. And that's my concern for it. Otherwise, I appreciate what he's doing. He's staying within the historic guidelines. what I've seen of his other units, and one of them is one that has been put with the lower basement area, and it's excellent. So good luck to him and what he's doing. We appreciate his service to Elston Grove. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment? Public comment on this petition? Last call, public comment. Public comment is closed. Board members? Do you have any recommendations, emotions?
I would like to make a motion that we approve it conditional on the petitioner shall only be allowed to convert it into a 3-unit for rental. The petitioner does convert the driveway into a 2-lane and have 6 spaces for off-street parking. That the steps to the basement be gated so that no one can accidentally fall down. And that the basement apartment, well, the entire building, as he mentioned, meets all current building codes.
Well,
I would back it up if you want to take away the gate and just say that it needs to meet all the building codes.
Yeah.
Because I think that's going to be the important thing, is to make sure that it's meeting the building codes. If it doesn't necessarily have to have a gate, then, but for us to step forward and say you're going to put a gate,
yeah, 'cause
I guess in a lot, if not most, subterranean entrances, I have seen gates to prevent accidents.
and
I
think
guess I will
that's
withdraw my motion then.
all the way.
Yes.
Okay. Make a motion.
well, I was going to motion to approve it based upon the converting of the basement to that 3rd unit for rental, and to meet the requirement of converting it to the 2-lane driveway, and also to meeting the building codes for making the changes with the property.
To meet all the buildings.
All the building codes, yes.
That's your motion.
That is my motion.
Mr. Grosch, would you second that?
Second.
May I ask a question?
Please.
The motion, as I read it, was that the petition would be required to have a 2-lane driveway.
Mhm.
The prior motion talked about as well, 6 spaces. Does a 2-lane driveway have 6 spaces? Ms. Martin, could you explain that?
A 2-lane driveway will more than likely only cover 4 at the most. If they are built to the standards of the city, as far as width and spacing, you have to think of the sizes of a car. There's no way that 6 cars is going to get there. However, currently, the other units are utilizing that space with, are not utilizing that space. And so once they rebuild and widen it, then the current tenants then will be able to move from street parking to that driveway, which will open up, not a lot, but 1 or 2 spaces that they are kind of inhabiting currently by using that driveway. Right now, they're not using it because it's not sufficient. And I think that Mr.
Or she.
Marsheets, sorry, took that into consideration. He has done a great job of, kind of looking at doing a survey, identifying traffic. He's did his due diligence and understanding these aspects. And he has worked with the historic preservation consistently, even before acquiring a variance, which I really appreciate, because he took into consideration the nature of that environment, which means he cares. And also, the last thing I would like to state is that we are here to approve him to have the third unit. And in my recommendation, as well as what you guys are stating, he will be required to follow all building codes as well as parking standards. And when I say parking standards, I mean size, width, and grade of the actual driveway. And a two-way lane driveway, and where he's located, will not accommodate 6 people. So you might want to take that into consideration as you're making your motion. But it will remove parking from that the current units are using around the neighborhood.
So it will add, so that will free up some of the space, so that additional unit then would have some of the on-street parking. So it would still accommodate the parking.
He does have a garage on there too.
Mr. Marchetts, did I say that right? Oh,
Marsheets.
dang. Okay, Mr. Marchetts, question: how do you plan on utilizing? I'm understanding, but if you can explain to the board your plans for the garage usage.
Well, there is a single car garage on the at the very end of the driveway. Quite frankly, we've been going back and forth trying to figure out if it makes more sense to just remove the garage, widen it, and go further back with double lane all the way. And if that's what's necessary, we can absolutely remove the garage, because it's currently a single. So it would take us, it'd be 2 lanes all the way and then turn into a single. I mean, if that helps, because that gives you a really long driveway to park cars on. I mean, it's I wish here the plotted, I have a plotted survey, but the distance of the lots, it's substantial. You could for sure park 3 cars the length of that driveway.
There you go.
And I think it would work. We could put a fence behind Miss Hattie's house to segregate it so that there's no conflict with that.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
I also would like to finish by stating that the fence may be a safety hazard, and that if we do place that into the recommendation, that we look into how it will impact the safety of the individuals living in the basement to go up and down and get out if we fence them in.
Right.
At this point, we have a motion. Now, are you sticking with just a 2-lane driveway? Is that all right?
I
Did you wanna-
I think it's fine,
Okay.
because it does open up parking, because as Miss Sylvia said, they were not using that driveway at this point, so they're utilizing all the on-street parking. So that will free up and give them at least the 4 parking spaces off-street. So I still think that would give them adequate.
So just for the record, can you go through and say your motion one more time, please?
Yes, that we approve the variance for B 103-24 for the, and with the planning department's recommendations of only converting that basement into that third unit for rental and converting the single lane to 2-lane driveway and then following all, of course, building codes.
So that's your motion.
That is my motion.
Okay, that is our motion. Mr. Gross, do you have a second on that motion?
I will second.
Okay, at this point, Ms. Martin, can you do the roll?
Of course. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
Mr. Gross,
No.
Mr. Hale, where does that leave us?
Well, first of all, you should ask if there's another motion.
Do we want to go back and do I have her recall her motion then, or just?
No,
pass?
that motion failed.
Okay, that motion failed.
And now you can call for another motion. If there is no other motion coming forth, there is another procedure to satisfy the deadlock. But right now, what you would do is be asked for another motion.
Okay. Is there another motion?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we table this until the petitioner can give us a detailed drawing of how he expects to put 6 parking spaces on that property.
You have something, Ms. Martin?
I don't think the petitioners, and from what I've gathered, but I could be, wrong, and Mr. Marchettes, you can correct Marchettes. In discussion with him, I don't think he anticipates to place 6 parking spaces there. He's anticipating to put in a 2-lane driveway that may have the possibility of getting 6. But in our conversation, I was okay with the widening of it to add parking there, because that has ultimately been the issue for everyone.
In the proposal, there is an Exhibit E, which says parking spaces provided 6.
Mhm.
Is that Exhibit E from him?
That is exhibited from him,
Okay,
but
and
we,
so I would like to see how he plans on doing 6 on a physical drawing of the property. That's my motion.
we talked about that.
And again, I'd like to table it until he provides us with that information.
So at this point, is there a second?
No.
All right, Mr. Hale.
Just to clarify, Mr. Gross's motion has failed for lack of a second. I would just, as a technical matter, ask if there are any further motions. With no further motions, then you, Mr. Jackson, make a motion to approve. And if it passes, then that motion passes. If it fails, then that is a denial of the petition.
So I will make a motion to approve. The motion to approve is to follow the recommendations of the planning department and to also add in the fact that it is following all the building codes, building inspections, and so on over the stairways, the driveway, etc. Do I need a second for that?
You do.
And I will second it.
Ms. Martin, the roll.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
No.
Petition fails.
All right. Ms. Martin, our next petition.
I would like to introduce petitioner B 104 24. I haven't been in a long time. I would like to introduce petitioner B 104 24, Patrick Shee, requesting a developmental standards variance for an EMC sign that is greater than 12 square feet and is within 600 feet of another EMC sign.
How are you?
Hello.
Your name is Patrick
Patrick Shy.
Shy.
Yep.
Okay. Mr. Shy, let me remind you, I did make an announcement at the beginning of this meeting tonight.
Yep.
There is only 3 board members. You do understand exactly what happened at the last one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm also,
So you are more than welcome to have your petition heard here tonight, or we can continue it to our next meeting.
So you're missing 2 people?
We are.
and is this not something you guys prepare for and let people know?
No, we actually prepare for it. This is very, very irregular. That's why we're all stammering up here, because this has actually never happened to our group like this before.
So,
He is correct. Because of the fact that we do have 5 appointed board members, and in order for us to make recommendations or approval of any of the petitions, we're only required to have quorum. Quorum of the 5 is 3. There are 3 here. However, with that being said, all 3 have to vote yes in order for it to pass.
I'll leave this one up to you if you want.
Yeah.
So if it gets turned down, then what happens?
You have to wait a year before you can come back to the board, or you can apply for an appeal.
That's what I'm shooting for. Mhm.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's too bad. My goodness. Who's missing?
We have 2 board members missing.
Who are they?
We have Ms. Vance, not Ms. Vance, we have
Kathy Stress.
Stransky and Mr. Calendar.
Oh. Well. Yeah, I want to make sure that's good through, so.
Because our next board meeting will be January,
I think, 7th.
let's make sure.
I'm pretty sure it's the 7th because my birthday the 5th.
Great.
January 7th. You got it. Yeah.
Yeah, so our next meeting would be January 7th.
Okay, do we get put on that agenda?
You can ask for continuance now, and we can continue it till.
Well, he's
or
not,
actually
because
reschedule it.
you requested it at the beginning that he has the option, you gave him the option to
Okay.
continue because we don't have sufficient members, if I'm correct, right?
Excuse me, but would somebody just double check me? I believe that our first meeting in January, the 2nd, Tuesday would be the 14th.
Oh, yeah. It is the 14th.
Okay.
Mr. Hale, if you would please, if they decide that they want to go back, can you explain to them, do they need to renotice or anything like that?
They have provided, the petitioner has provided notice that I've had notice documentation that I've had an opportunity to review. I find that it satisfies our requirements. So because we would, if they ask for a continuance, notify the public at this meeting as to the next meeting, that is January 14th, 2025 at 6 p.m. at this location, then no further notice would be required.
let's try that.
I think we.
Yeah, I think it'd be, yeah.
But will we know ahead of time if they're gonna be?
Step up to the microphone,
Will
please.
we know next time ahead of time if there's gonna be 5 people gonna be here? Cause I'm an hour and a half away. I came all the way for this meeting, you know?
And I understand, and I apologize for that. I really do. This is,
Still like,
like I said, we didn't even know until we got here.
well, maybe there should be. some
But
sort of
because I do apologize, but because there are, this is a regular standing meeting. And we're not allowed to kind of poll and counsel per se. So we would have to, just rely on the board members to inform us whether or not they would be in attendance. But if they are not in attendance and there's three of them, there's no need for us to inform, or I wouldn't say inform, there's no need for us to counsel or reschedule a meeting because by law we have enough people to proceed and we have to.
Okay.
So that's the only issue.
And you
here.
have 5 total board members total. You don't have 7 and.
Nope, 5.
5.
Just 5.
It's like,
Just 5.
okay. Well, do you want to request a continuance?
Yeah, let's do that. Let's.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all right.
Yeah,
I'm disappointed. Anyway. But, all right, well.
Do we need a motion then?
However.
The petitioner has requested that we continue this matter to our next meeting, which is January 14th at 6 p.m. in this location. It does require a vote.
I
Fair,
make
a motion?
I make a motion that we table it till the next meeting on January 14th.
I will call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Our next petition, Ms. Martin.
Well, we have petitioner B-105-24 Legacy Sign Group requesting a EMC sign to be had in a residential district and also to allow a pole sign to be more than 72 square feet, totaling 145 square feet per side. However, Mr. Can you pronounce your name? I am so sorry.
Larry Yurko?
Yurko.
Yes.
Mr. Yurko has emailed us requesting for continuance so that he can amend his petition based on the planning department's recommendation.
We are seeking a continuance to next month, please.
Thank you. Motion?
I make a motion that we continue this matter until the January 14th meeting.
I second it.
I will call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Van,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next year. Thank you.
Oh, I am so sorry. Okay. Can you, are you in a rush? Okay, can you wait for a moment? I need to talk to you about something. All right, thank you.
Ms. Martin, I believe that puts us into old business.
Mr. Jackson,
Mr. Hale, please.
the first item of old business and the second include the findings and decision of 2 petitions. You'll recall at our last meeting, Mr. Gross, as it turns out very correctly, and I want to applaud him, it was a great catch, found that there were mistakes, my mistakes, in the decision and findings of fact. I have corrected those, and the error was in the conditions and the wording of the conditions that applied to both approvals. So, with that said, I would like to present to you the finding and decision for petition B-101-24. That was the petition of Mark A. Esbar, who is a petitioner and applicant, and his trust was the property owner. The request was for a use variance for property at 1501 Washington Street, Michigan City. So we held a public hearing and on August 13th of 2024, and this body passed and approved the petition for use variance to add an additional rental unit to the first floor of the carriage house. You applied and found the findings that were submitted to you by Ms. Martin in her report, and you subjected approval to two conditions. The driveway shall be widened to accommodate 4 off-street parking spaces, and the ground floor apartment shall only contain 1 dwelling unit. And those changes have been made to that, and an appropriate motion would be to approve these. These were tabled at our last meeting.
Is there a motion to approve and adopt these finding of facts?
I make a motion to approve petition B-101-24.
To be precise, you're approving the decision and findings of fact.
Oh, okay. I make a motion to approve the decision and findings of fact for petition B-101-24.
Similarly, at our August 13th, 2024 meeting, we had a second petition.
Hang on.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do need a vote on it.
Yep, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm confused on that. Because I did not understand it too when we originally, because I went back and watched it. It to me didn't seem like it meant 4 spaces. It was accommodate for off-street parking. That's how I took it to mean. So that's my question. Is it for 4 spaces?
The 4 spaces is if they're off street, so they're
Right.
4 spaces.
So it is for 4.
Yeah.
Okay, just wasn't spoken that way, and that's why I was
Yeah.
confused.
I believe that it's very specific that it was 4
4
spaces. It was your request, Mr. Gross.
was
Do you
huge, yeah.
recall? Wasn't it very specific about 4?
Yes, it was 4 spaces.
That's what's reflected in the proposed decision and findings of fact.
And that's also reflected in the minutes.
That's correct. I was going to mention that. Thank you. The minutes were accurate and you approved the minutes, so we don't need to go back and do anything with those. But it was in the minutes that way.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Martin?
I will call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Okay, Mr.
Sorry
Hale?
about that.
That's all right.
Petition number B-102. The next one is petition number B-102-24. The petitioner applicant was Tyler Martin. The property owner was Mulder Michigan City Investment Group LLC. The request was for a special exception use to change the existing use at property at 3502 East Michigan Boulevard, Michigan City, Indiana, from auto body repair shop to a tattoo establishment. Again, this body approved at the August 13th, 2024 meeting that petition for special exception use, and you adopted Ms. Martin's proposed findings, which are included in the decision and findings. However, you subjected approval to these conditions. The site shall not be within 100 feet of a residential district. The site shall not be within 1,000 feet of an adult regulated use. The hours of operation shall be limited to between 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. From between 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. And approval of the special exception use is limited to the 0.479 acres shown on the beacon map provided by the petitioner and not the entire parcel. Those latter two were the ones that Mr. Gross, the latter two are the two that Mr. Gross correctly pointed out weren't correctly worded, and we've made those changes, and I believe they now reflect the actual motion as it was approved.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the decision of findings and facts, decision and findings of facts for petition number B-102-24.
And do we have a second?
I second it.
Ms.
I
Martin?
will call for the vote. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, Ms. Martin, if you would.
As we discussed from our previous meeting, that we collectively came up with an agreement for me and Mr. Hale to go back and look for the BZA rules and procedures, as well as certain line items that we utilize in our application. So if you look into your packet consists
Well, here it is.
of the policies and procedures. I'm sorry, the rules and procedures, as well as the minutes that approve those rules and procedures. We would like to I would like to recommend, and it's kind of up to you all, that you take the packets and review them and identify whether you agree with them, whether you would like to add things to them, and that we move forward with a few drafts, ending with an approved policy and procedure that we all can agree on.
Okay.
This is the rules and procedures as best as can be found in the plan department records. So anything that may have been in place cannot be substantiated at this time. And perhaps there should be a workshop when we have all 5 members present. Perhaps there should be further discussion of an overall new rule and procedure statement being approved by this body sometime in the new year.
Very good.
And because it's just informational, we don't need to vote on it.
Okay. You got this, are we ready to move on? That was our new business, right? That's all we had. That's it. All right, we're gonna open it up for public comment. Public comment, please. Anyone for public comment? Public comment? Last call for public comment. Mr. Drew, do you have anybody online? All right, public comment is closed. Board members?
Motion to adjourn. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's what I was looking for.
Motion to adjourn.
I second it.
Okay. We're adjourned.